the Let's Talk Leadership podcast. My name's Elly Greening.
And my name's Sandra Patel-Stewart.
On this podcast, we will be interviewing some of the UK's greatest tech leaders. We'll be discussing war stories, battle scars, and their learnings from their journeys.
Hopefully, you will pick up some great tips, learn from others' experiences, and have a good laugh along the way.
Hello and welcome to the Let's Talk Leadership podcast. So this week we have Ed Thewlis on. So Ed is the CTO at the Data Shed. The Data Shed are a Leeds-based business that was established in 2014 by Ed and his lovely wife and CEO Anna Sutton. They provide data products and consultancy services. The Data Shed has grown at an impressive rate. They offer a range of skills tailored to your needs by getting to know your business. From a single consultation to a full-blown bespoke data system, designing, creating and maintaining for any of your data challenges, these guys are the experts. Hello, Ed.
Morning.
Morning, Ed. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. How are you guys?
Good. Yeah, good. Thank you. Oh, good. Enjoying the sunshine. I don't think lockdown would have been able to get through it without all this lovely sunshine that we've had.
A whole different world, yeah.
Oh no, tell me about it. Cool. So it's great to have you on here. I know we've been pestering you for some time, so thanks for making the time for us.
Thanks for persisting.
Always like to kick these things off with finding out a bit more about you, telling the listeners where everything started, how you got into tech and where your journey started, and kind of, I guess, how you got to where you are today, which is a very successful business owner in my eyes.
Very kind, thank you. It depends how far you want to go back, because I think whenever I recount my sort of my youth and history and journey into this, I sound like some sort of mild psychopath because I seem to jump around a lot. I think the shortish version is, as a kid I was pretty bright. I was good at maths, and when I was younger, I was really focused on just getting good at learning stuff. And
you're a tech geek.
It's more maths geek. I was a gamer, but I wasn't really into building stuff. I helped sort of, in various projects tech-wise, but I never really sort of led them. When I got towards about 16, and I thought, I really can't be arsed with this academia anymore. It's really sort of it's really just, it doesn't seem to suit me. So I said to my dad, Dad, I'm done with this. I'm going to be a chef. I was. And I worked as a chef from the age of 14, sort of part-time, all the way through to 20, 21, 22, all the way through sort of any sort of stuff I was doing. And I realised that it's one of my favourite jobs ever. You're busy, it's all process, you really focus on, it's very tangible, the outputs of what you do. And you can always see discernible improvement as you go. It's not one of these...
Pretty high pressurised environment as well, isn't it? And fast paced.
Yeah, I learned some awesome swear words. Ones that I don't think I'll ever be able to use in front of anyone. And then after that, I realised that, chefing, my dad sort of sat me down one day and said, look, you're competing with people out there whose hands are probably cleverer than yours. They might be better and more coordinated and better tasting. So actually you need to start focusing on the stuff you can compete at properly, as opposed to the stuff that you really enjoy doing.
Yeah,
which was sensible. And I was also earning $9,000 a year at the time, so it wasn't particularly a job for life at that stage. So I didn't really know what to do. So at that point, I basically walked out of sixth form to go and be a chef. So we sort of sat down and said, right, well, maybe we'll change schools for a bit. So we changed schools for 2 years at A level. Still couldn't be bothered learning stuff. I was very lackluster. I think most people's lasting memory of me at school will be dragging him to the pub at lunchtime. Tuesday lunchtime, Wednesday lunchtime. It went downhill from there. So after that, I got to the point where I thought, I'm not going to university. This doesn't seem to suit me. So I went to work in Germany for a couple of years, or gap year to start off with, basically running campsites over there. Learned the language, really enjoyed it. And then Dad sat me down and said, yeah, sort your life out, will you? You're really good at maths. Why don't you go study economics at uni? I thought, that's a great idea, that. Went to university, didn't enjoy it. Spent most of the time running pubs. And then after that, I just came out of it and went, well, that was a waste of 5 years. What am I going to do now? So I found myself just working in a call centre. And I was trying to sort of look at how they were predicting. People were really struggling with how many people do we need in today to serve amount of calls? I said, well, it's just maths, isn't it? It's LNC. You predict call volumes based on history. And I'd started doing that for them. And then started to realise, actually, I should probably do something with the stuff I can do well. So yeah, after that, I just spent a number of different jobs in different industries, going from financial services to vehicle leasing to healthcare. I just bounced around a bit, sort of learning how to make data do stuff. And then I got really frustrated by the fact that IT never seemed to be able to give me what I needed. So I started building it myself. And then things just grew from there. I've had really two sort of real sort of pivotal moments in my career. And both are very similar circumstances. One's a company called Lex Vehicle Leasing over in Manchester. And one at Provident Financial, where I found myself in a situation where there were two other members of my team that were sort of similar aged, similar way of viewing things, and similarly motivated just to do some really amazing things. So in both of those environments, my skills sort of leapt forward quite significantly, because we didn't just work 9 till 5. We'd actually find ourselves really enjoying working till midnight or to 2 a.m. to fix the problem we knew would drive some huge value for the business. And then when I was over at Provident, I met Anna, and she kicked me into shape, you might say. Got really heavy boots sometimes. And yes, from that point onwards, Anna went on to do other things, and I was sort of running the BI team at Jet2, I think, at the time. And she came to me and was saying, for some reason my IT team can't make this and that meet, so I can't work out how to do this campaign. I said, well, it's bloody easy, let's do this. And we thought, hang a second, we should do this professionally, because with her marketing powers and my geekness combined, we are capable of doing some cool stuff. And we started that. And then within about 12, 18 months, we were employing people, and it's gone from there, really.
Cool. So it was just you two to start with for the first year and a half?
Yeah, it was just me for lots of that, because she was selfishly having children and raising our...
Selfishly.
Yeah, it was.
Should have given anything to switch roles with you.
Yeah, I'm sure she. I've heard that sentiment expressed at great volume. But no, for the first sort of, basically I was doing contracting to start off with, but trying to manage multiple different clients and always keep enough cash available, with the objective of saying, well, if I get 30 grand at this piece of work, that's someone's wages for the first 6 months, so we can get them in, we can get them earning some cash, and basically by 6 months time they need to be generating some more themselves. And we just kept, that's how it was in my mind to start off with. You get a chunk of cash, that's a person's salary, chunk of cash, person's salary. And first couple of years, we didn't earn anything, really.
Yeah, tough, isn't it?
Yeah. So then it's 40 plus of us now.
So that was 2014.
Around that, yeah.
Around then. And so where let's talk a little bit about where you are, where you've got to then, and where you are today, and kind of what size of the business is. I mean, I've had a look round I've been to your offices, and they're amazing. The setup that you've got there, and the culture, the environment, the people. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
Well, I think one of the proudest things I'd say about where we are now is we've always been guided quite strongly by what we believe we want to be building, but also having really good evidence of the terrible businesses we've worked for before. Every time you work somewhere, you think, oh my, that is just terrible. We should never do that. So some things that we really try and promote are, learning development is it's what we are. We've got people who get better and better, who make themselves more capable, who can deliver more things to more clients. So I remember at times in other places we've been, having to beg for £200 for a train ticket to go to a conference. It just really frustrated me. And of course now didn't express it in that way. But and so as a result, the team get a large proportion of their time to do learning development every year. It can be up to 1 day in 5, depending on how they manage the rest of the time, which is fairly. We want people to be. We really don't like one-dimensional people, and I don't mean don't like. We feel quite sorry for them, So, as an organisation, someone coming in and saying, "I'm a Java dev," well, that's nice. What else do you do? You don't get a plumber who rocks up with one hammer or one spanner, and if you can't use that spanner, you can't fix the leak. We need to make sure that we've got broad enough skills that we can tackle any problem while making sure we still have experts in other areas. And that's what I've learned, from the times of those 2 businesses where there was 3 of us together, each with complementary skills, but all knew a little bit of the other one's roles, so that we make sure that is possible. In terms of where we are sort of financially, it's a multi-million-pound business now, which sounds great.
Amazing.
I don't know what it means anymore. It's just another zero, isn't it? But yeah, it's really cool. We've got loads of shedders now, so there's 40 plus of us. We're recruiting for more, hopefully growing fairly soon. And it's at a point now where I think it's a nice place to work. We know that we've got people who care about us. Even for me, if I'm feeling a bit rough at times, I'll have members of the team sort of poking me and saying, "Come on, have a chat. Come on, you all right?" So it's not just a matter of us hugging everyone else comes to the door. It's everyone looks after each other.
That's really lovely, isn't it?
It's really nice. So what challenges did you face? I mean, I've been in your shoes, and I'll be open and honest. For the first few years for us within Transition Partners, probably 2-3 years, we got a lot wrong, and we learned from that. And I wouldn't say that we get it all right now, but we're in a much better place now.
Definitely more than when we started.
I mean, we particularly got a lot wrong when it came to hiring and culture. And what about within DataShed? Like for the first kind of 2 or 3 years that you could, I guess, our listeners and viewers could learn from. And
I think the first, we've made more mistakes. We totted some of the mistakes up a while back that we made, and you're talking millions of pounds it's cost us. It's not trivial things. And particularly at times we don't have £1 million to spend. It can be quite expensive. So I think one of the culture to start off with, lots of it was driven by me, and I suppose it depends in terms of the mentality that Anna and I have. It's slightly different in that I want to fix problems. I'm a maker. I see a thing, I want to resolve that thing or make it better. But a maker mentality isn't great for building a team, because what you do is you drive people to do a thing. So I don't know, say 4 or 5 years ago, there's 12 of us, and basically those 12 would typically be directed by me to do a thing. So I just had 12 pairs of hands, as opposed to having 12 autonomous people who could operate independently. And they, not to take that away, they were capable of doing that. They weren't necessarily allowed to do that. And that doesn't allow you to really grow in any meaningful way, because that doesn't scale at all. Whereas Anna came in and wanted to focus on making people accountable and responsible for the things that they're doing. So the sort of maker and multiplier type approach sort of works quite nicely. In terms of some mistakes, I mean, we've made some clangers when it comes to recruitment. Proper, I'm not going to name any names, obviously. But I think the real challenge that we've when you start to trace back the real mistakes we've made, it's because we've recruited on tech talent alone. Now when it comes to our hiring process, the biggest bit is, I know on the wall it says, number 1 rule, be excellent to each other, but it's don't be a dick, basically. Excuse my French. And I think we've sort of often forgot that that's the number 1 rule. So now when we go through the vetting and the actual the interviewing process, you have to demonstrate that you're going to join a team that wants to grow and is capable of growing. And if you can write code, that's brilliant. But actually the most important bit is you will fit, and not fit in a cultural fitty sort of sense. You'll add you'll contribute towards it. So now I've heard cultural fit in the past typically means you're one of the boys who comes to the pub, and that's often what it means. Whereas from our perspective, it's now are you empathetic enough to be able to work within a team to help them fix their own the problems that are there? And if you like Dungeons and Dragons or car racing, whichever it may be, you will fit. Just it doesn't need to be a horrible, terrible person who wants to just write Java or any other language insert here.
And that's hard in tech, isn't it? Particularly when you've got like deliverables to achieve for clients, and like you say, when you're under pressure to bring on new hires, and like you've got big projects that you need to hire the right tech people for. It's quite often, isn't it, that you rush into it and you hire the wrong people based on tech.
That's one of the biggest sort of decision making processes now is do we have enough time to make the decision properly? Do we have enough time to bring that person in a way that we will make sure that they're the right person for us? And if we don't, let's get a contractor in.
That's a good way of looking at it, actually.
Really, if all you've got is a set of outcomes you try and deliver, that's what the contract market's for. We don't have these skills right now, or we don't have the capacity for this. Let's bring someone in with those skills and those capabilities to allow us to deliver this objective. And if it's wider than that, we need to take the time over it properly.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, it's a great way of looking at it. And it's not just the consultancy service. Like, as we mentioned, you're working with some huge brands all across the UK, but you've got products as well. So can you tell us a bit more about the product?
Yeah, it's trying to take the stuff that Anna and I did back in the day and make it something that everyone can have. I think there's lots of talk right now about being data driven. I'm not sure that's necessarily the right way of phrasing it. I think it's better informed by the data, allowing the people with the domain expertise to make those decisions. But the data refinery itself is just a place you can throw your customer data so you can understand better the customers that you as an organization serve. For the majority of the clients that use it, it'll be free, because we feel strongly that SMEs need to have those capabilities to allow them to keep up with the larger organizations.
Amazing.
At the end of the day, being able to build a propensity model to say these people are likely to respond to a marketing campaign, with the technology we have nowadays, it shouldn't be beyond every organization to be able to do that. Just most don't realize it's possible. So yeah, we're trying our best to make sure that that's available to smaller organizations, but also it's built on big data tech, so it can handle billions and trillions of records if it needs to.
Fantastic.
Do you have any plans to expand out of the UK into Europe, or go international?
I'd love to go back to Germany. I love that place, but I think right now let's just smash the UK for now. Once we've taken over completely, then we'll look at the expansion.
We love working in Germany. It's brilliant. We do quite a bit in Berlin, and we're looking to expand. And just love it. Great.
Yeah.
Love the trips over there as well.
Oh, it's my favourite place in the whole world. We were actually supposed to go there fairly soon, but obviously this global pandemic has spoiled my little hopes.
So we touched a little bit on, I guess, your leadership of teams, recruitment, how you ensure that you're hiring the right people to fit into, I guess, what you want to deliver, and values that you're looking for. How do you think your team would describe your leadership skills now, and tell us more about your leadership skills?
It's like one of those questions where someone says, "What would your friends say your worst quality is?" I
always ask that question at interview. What would your friends and family say about you?
Yeah. I don't think I'll answer that one either, to be honest with you. It's my brothers hate me. It's a really difficult question, that, because I say my style has changed significantly over the last 5 or 6 years. So there are some people that are at the shed right now who have been with us for that whole journey, and would probably describe me as an enthusiastic ball of energy who wants to build stuff, and others that haven't been here that long that probably see me more distant but more. There were some people who don't think I can write code, and they all object to my code anyway, because I don't ever do it to their quality. I like to think that I'm getting better in my old age, allowing people to get on with the things that they excel at. But I'll be honest, I'm still I'm still a maker. I'm still want to be involved in every little project to make sure that I'm there. I think one bit I missed out, sorry, when I was doing the history thing, I did my officer selection test in the British Army when I was sort of trying to work out what I want to do with my life.
Oh, wow.
So a bundle of training for that and that sort of thing. And one of the most important things I learned there was just, you don't ask anyone to do something you won't do yourself. And the only way to really gain respect from people in a very sort of practical industry is you've got to be there doing it. If someone's up at 4 a.m. fixing stuff, you're up there at 4 a.m. to fix the stuff. You got to make sure that they can see that, this bloke, at the top of the tree apparently isn't just shouting stuff down saying fix it, fix it, fix it. He's also there bringing you a beer when you need it and making sure that he's providing input to that problem. So I like to think that, I lead by example where possible and try to explain why I don't when I don't.
Brilliant. Cool. So you've mentioned some of the things that kind of you didn't do quite so right when starting the data shed, but I don't know whether there's a story or an example of further back in your career where you were really kind of in the depths of it and it was a bit of a disaster, but you had your biggest learning along the way from it. Have you got any examples of any real sort of war stories for us?
Put your feet up and get yourself a cup of tea. I've got several. A while back at the shed, we had a couple of things going slightly wrong. And I think lots of people were afraid of failure. So I did a bit of a talk in front of everyone to explain how failure is absolutely the thing we need to be going for. It just needs to be well controlled. And to make it very clear, I told them the story about when I was at an organisation back in the day. I was working as a marketing analyst. And me being at that point, I'm cleverer than you all. I'll sort this stuff out. I built a new way of making campaigns run. So we were sending out a campaign to, I think it was 250,000 people, direct mail as well. So it wasn't any of this email stuff that's nice and cheap and you can undo quite quickly. And I built this new way of generating the campaign so it's much more efficient. And I sort of showed everyone it and said, look, this is better than your stuff, and never got around to testing it properly. And I was rushing it. I was rushing to get it done because I thought it was cool. I just want to move on to the next exciting thing. We sent a couple of campaigns. It was all fine until the Royal Mail started returning the mail on pallets. And usually you get, a few sort of handful of not deliverable things. When you get pallets of returned mail at £1 a time being sent back, you've got a problem. And it turns out that I'd managed to, as part of my new automated process, forget to put the house number on all the addresses. Oh, no. So there was a very significant cost there that went out the door and came back. And I remember getting the bollocking of my life from the director at the time, who used some exciting new words that even the chef didn't know. And at that point, I realised very clearly that, I know I'd always had a bit of an issue with my eye for detail because I've never been bothered. It never really, it's one of those, if I didn't know it was needed, I wouldn't do anything to actually improve it.
Yeah.
So that was the time where my eye for detail went from a bit fuzzy to laser focused. So, there aren't many learning experiences where you can actually see the mail coming back is higher than you. So you have to make sure that, you don't do it again. Otherwise you don't have a job ever. That was fun.
Yeah, God, yeah, that sounds like a stressful one.
I would not like to in your shoes then.
Yeah, no, definitely not. If you were to go back to day one, so your first day within, well, I guess when you moved into your sort of data analyst type roles, what is the one bit of advice that you'd have given yourself?
It's different now. So that's a really interesting question, because if I were me with today's technology, I'd probably be saying, if you learn anything else, just learn SQL and Python. I know people have opinions about all these things, but if you learn nothing else, learn SQL and Python, because that will make you capable of doing pretty much anything. Back in those days, well, they didn't really exist very much. So it wasn't as if you could just say, I think in terms of approach, it's really difficult to tell this to most of the more junior members. Slow down. Just take your time to learn this properly. And I don't mean, just by doing a course doesn't mean you can do a thing. Just, I know people want to run at 1,000 miles an hour, and the industry tells us we can do, but actually taking the time to learn a skill properly and be able to demonstrate that to a degree of expertise that is more than just a trivial sort of passing of knowledge, that is critical. The number of times I was caught short by saying, yeah, I can do that, and then I realized I'd read half the book, not the full book, and then suddenly had to, I couldn't
get yourself out of it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, like you say, you've got to learn, you've got to make little mistakes to be able to learn how to rectify those mistakes. And that's why I really like what you were saying earlier about talking to the team. Like, we do need to make mistakes, but just manage and control their mistakes is so important, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, without making mistakes, you don't learn you don't really learn what your true capabilities are. I know people think that, with tech nowadays, most of the tech we do is on rails. We've got processes that automate the code and stop it going to areas where it shouldn't go. But back in the day, we developed on live. We sat there on production systems at 2 a.m. making releases, and if it blew up, you had to understand how to unwind that position. So you had to have rollback in mind. You had to understand how to rectify and patch data. But those lessons taught us to be really diligent about how we do that. So I know Tony, our chief data scientist, will sit there and still quite happily tell you that we should be developing on live. He doesn't really mean that, I don't think. But that's because he and I learned to do that. So you learn to think incredibly quickly and with absolute clarity.
Yeah.
Whereas, and you have to feel the pain of doing it incorrectly. Whereas lots of the team now, the mistakes they make are really trivial ones that are caught earlier on. So they don't actually feel the pain. They don't feel that sinking, sicky feeling you get when you see the male sort of trotting back in on truck. And that's not. There are so many different mistakes like that I've made in my past, and each one, when I think back 10, 15 years ago, still make me feel a little bit sick. So those are the ones you need to hold tight to and never forget, because they're the ones that are going to make you better, and proceed with a degree of caution that sometimes you might not.
Yeah, they're the ones that shape you and grow you into I guess what you are now. So obviously we're all experiencing strange, weird, difficult times at the moment. I think we're on like week 10 or 11 of lockdown. We've all had some difficult challenges to manage and overcome. How at the Data Shed, how are you motivating your teams, your people? How are you uniting them? How are you continuing to continuing to have that, the culture that you've spent so long building up and that you've created?
I was chatting to a very clever man who is also a CTO last night, and his way of describing it, I think, fits ours a little bit. We've got a battery of culture, and we've been running that battery down over the last few weeks, basically after we left the office, and we need to find a way of recharging it. It's the culture of an office, the culture of an organization. Most of them are built on people being part of a thing, and that being part of a thing is being able to make someone else a coffee. It's being able to see someone's not too happy right now, so you take them for a walk on the block and just have a chat to them. You might do the floor walk and start to feel how things are progressing and make little tweaks to it. Right now, we're spending time trying to make sure we maintain a similar culture, but it's very difficult to maintain the same culture. I mean, to a certain extent, the culture itself of caring and people looking after each other happens without me or Anna. It just works. People are picking up with one another and making sure that others are okay. We've got mental health first aiders in the team, so they're the support available to people as and when they require it. But I think fundamentally, the culture itself will change as a result of this, because cultures are always changing with a mix of people and different pressures are employed to it.
Yeah.
But we're doing our best to ensure that we keep the message of what we're trying to do in mind. So every week we have a Wednesday afternoon, we have the Shed Diaspora, which is our weekly catch up, where basically one of the senior team presents to everyone, explain precisely what's going on in each area, where people can ask questions. We're sharing all that and live streaming it to the whole team. It's then recorded and made sure it's available so people who didn't manage to make it can see it. So there's actually some sort of horrible video diary of our lockdown, and it's at times filled with gifts and sorrow, and at other times it's filled with celebration, which is nice. Which really, I think what we're trying to do is just try and make sure we're not pest people too much, because the default position, if I were floor walking right now, I could walk around 40 shedders and come back with a sense of how each team's doing over the course of 15
without
minutes.
it being
Invasive.
Yeah.
Without suddenly dialing someone saying, "Are you okay?" And it's that sort of thing just doesn't work. So yeah, we're trying to explore different ways of making that work. We want to, I think the real thing we're trying to do at the moment is just set the expectation that this is it for now. We're not trying to necessarily plan for an immediate return. We're not trying to dive back into where we were to avoid losing what we've got. What we're trying to do is make sure that we can function in a way that adheres to our values now in this current environment, and make sure that people are looked after as best we can.
Cool. Fantastic. Sounds like you're doing a good job of it. It's
Well,
not.
Anna's working really hard.
So, you're obviously a very passionate leader. Obviously, you're passionate about data, passionate about what you do. What else are you passionate about? What drives you? What makes you tick?
Before lockdown, I'd say my children. I want to make sure that they get the education they need. I want to, but obviously, spending a lot of time with them recently. That's less so nowadays.
Hiding out in a camper van, aren't you, to get away from them?
My van.
Yeah, for those of you listening, Ed's actually sat in his camper van this morning recording the episode.
I've got snacks in here and everything.
Snacks! Ooh.
For me, I just like doing stuff that keeps me in. Back in the day when I was doing A levels and my degree, I realised that unless I had a real interest in an objective that I wanted to get to, just studying was pointless. It just didn't work for me. So I spend my time thinking and planning and building stuff. The boys want us to build computer games now, so we're learning how to do that, which is really interesting and equally frustrating. I used to think I was quite good at tech, and then someone asked me to build a Pokemon game. It turns out I can't do that for toffee. I personally, the reason we have this van is because Anna and I like to travel and like to not be here. So we want to get out and see what we can. And we went to the Highlands of Scotland in whenever it was, last year or this year. It just in a different life right now, it feels like.
Yeah.
And be able to do more of that at the same time as running our business, it sort of shapes how we want to run the business. If we have that flexibility, others should too.
That's amazing.
So
you were meant to be going to Europe for 6 weeks, right? Doing a trip. Where were you intending to go?
Everywhere. That's Anna and I. I think it's pretty fair to say that neither of us is necessarily the most detailed long-term planner. Anna likes to think she does good planning when she sets her mind to it. But I think the plan was basically to turn up and say, "Hey, Europe, we're here. Where can we go now?" Because that's the point of this. The reason we've done holidays and package holidays and that sort of thing before. But the idea of someone saying to me, "No, this is where you're staying for the next 2 weeks. That's the restaurant you're going to eat out of, and that's the place you can go and visit," it gets me itching. So the idea of being able to say, "No, I'm probably going to go here today, and actually it's going to be nice down there tomorrow. So let's drive for a couple of hours and go there." That just sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I love that. Love the idea of that.
I know. I'm really jealous. I'd love a camper van like that.
For a snip now. It's not being used for much.
I'll be too jealous right now because you can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure you will be able to in time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned about your various different moves in your career, from chef to officer training to ending up in data. But thinking about it now, if you hadn't have gone into tech, what would you have really loved to do?
Now, Anna will be probably strongly disagreeing with this, but there's a couple of things I would love to do. And it does sort of combine with data a little bit more maths. So I think agriculture right now is significantly underserved by proper analysis. I know there is a huge amount at the real huge sort of farming level, both arable and sort of pastoral, but I really would like to test the idea about whether I could run a farm.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Anna's probably watching this right now thinking, just shut up, you idiot.
Not sure I can see that in you.
No, I don't like the garden. But it's like education. I don't like the garden outside because it's got pointless flowers. Why would I build a thing that required me to sort of nurture it without any feedback for months on end? If there's a garden out there that's filled with stuff that I have to keep care of because that's and I can make it better and generate more value from it. That sounds really quite interesting, and it's different from this sedentary lifestyle that I have right now, which is basically tapping on these keys to try and generate different bits of code.
That was a great answer. That surprised me, actually. I didn't think you'd be a farmer.
I get to grow up as a beard at that point as well.
So we were talking earlier about, I think this was a discussion before we started recording actually, about how you're waking up at something like ridiculously like 4 o'clock in the morning, starting your day, working till 9ish, and then doing some homeschooling. I think you said last night you probably didn't finish working till about 9-10 o'clock. It's obviously pretty tough for you right now, and I know even before lockdown, and probably for the last 6-9 months I've been pestering you to catch up, and you've just been absolutely
sorry, I can't
inundated, busy, like which is great, which is brilliant for the business. But how do you find the time, and what do you do to keep yourself sane and healthy, and like how do you manage all the stress that comes with doing what you do?
I think that the stress side of things is very different to what it was previously. The previous stress, the predominant stress nowadays is trying to make sure that everything's okay and that people are okay, because I know how stressful it is for us, and lots of stress is driven by greater or lesser autonomy. You know, if you are fully in control of a thing, you can be less stressed by it. Whereas lots of the team, I'm aware, aren't as in control of this whole situation as we can be. So you've got to be aware that they're probably feeling more stressed about it than I am to a certain extent. You know, I can see the bank statements. I can see we've got plenty of cash, and with the future cash flows, we've got plenty of cash coming through. So I can be, you know, fairly relaxed at times about that. Not that I don't sit and panic and think, you know, chicken little, the sky is falling at times. But for me, I think the only way to really handle that is to get away. And again, and this is where you've got to be really aware of the others around you. I'm really lucky. I live in a place where I can, within 10 minutes, I am in the middle of fields, and 15 minutes on from that, I'm, you know, up on a hill somewhere. So I go out and go walking quite a lot. And that's really, you know, the first 5 weeks I didn't do that. And it was really, really difficult. And basically, Anna, big boots, sussing through there, kicked me out of the house and said, "Go for a walk, you idiots." And I did, and I came back and I felt like a different person. But I've never been really good at exercising for exercising's sake. Again, got to be a reason for doing it. I do sound like a psychopath sometimes, don't I?
Only running away from things, not just running.
Or towards. That's an interesting. But yeah, so getting out, walking, to a certain extent, the kids are a welcome release at times, because having to focus on what a prepositional phrase is and then sit there and convince them it's important to learn it means you're not thinking about code or about people at times, and that's actually a bit of a break at times.
I'm sure you get asked this all the time, and I'm sure I asked this to Anna when I interviewed Anna, but how the hell do you two work together? I just cannot imagine working.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine it.
So back in the olden days, we'd say effective communication. So it improves all parts of your life. If you can communicate in a balanced way with each other without generating emotion, then that helps. Nowadays, it's making sure we've got good fences. To a certain extent, most of the time, Anna and I only work together when we have our monthly board meetings, or we have bits where our teams overlap. We've spent a bit of time recently sort of really reevaluating our roles and how we work together. So I look after the consultancy, as in going out and doing the advisory work and the product development. And Anna's very much looking after the operations and the learning development plans and that side of things. So there's a natural split there. And it's like right now, I think the vast majority of people are on Zoom calls or Teams calls for 8-9 hours a day. So all we do is see each other's backs. And then on an evening we'll have a dinner and glass of wine and say, "How was your day?"
Yeah, that's good. It's interesting, isn't it?
It's tough. I won't, I don't think anyone that works with their other half can ever say, "Yeah, it's easy. It's been the best thing we've ever done together." But I think it's manageable. But I think you have to accept that if you're planning on doing it, you are sacrificing a proportion of your relationship, because you don't have those other things to talk about. You just have the thing that you're both focusing on to get done.
Although when I see things on LinkedIn about like Anna winning another great award, or you winning an award, which you guys do all the time, your
Anna
cupboard
wins the awards. I just transfer code.
You must like go out and have the best time though, going celebrating together and winning these amazing awards. I think, oh God, I bet they had a great night at that award ceremony.
I think we've only been to one together once.
Oh really?
I guess when you've got the kids as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've got kids. We've got 3 kids. Well, we've got 46 kids, really, I suppose. We've got the 40 plus shedders and got our 2 own children. So we've got our responsibilities to them, make sure that, imagine, if I went out and got drunk one night with my mates, and the next morning, it's a Wednesday evening, Thursday morning, I'm pretty ineffective. If both of Ellen and I do that, then the 2 leaders of the business aren't there. So it's very difficult to actually be able to do that sort of thing together.
Yeah.
Then when we did, I think it was a Friday night went on, that was a good fun night. Good fun morning.
Yeah, because I think one of the first time I met you in person was when you came to our summer barbecue a few years ago, wasn't it? One of the first ones.
Was I the drunk one in the corner?
Yeah, I think I was there with you there.
Barbecues, they were nice with other people, weren't they? I remember those days.
Distant memory.
No, we've had to cancel it for it. Well, we're in June, aren't we? It would have been at the end of this month. Yeah.
Oh well, I think next year's
third year running. Cool. So, good question to end on. I think would be great for everyone to kind of get an idea of what have you got, what's exciting for you, like what's on the horizon, and what big plans do you have coming up that you could potentially share with us all?
What can I share? I suppose that's interesting. So the Data Shed is the first business that Anna and I have created. And over, I'm still a mere youth at the age of, what am I now, 36, something like that. So I've got another 1 or 2 of these in me, I think. And I've got some plans for what they might look like. I think I think this is one of the lessons that I learned previously with my eye for detail. You've got to really focus on the things that's in front of you, that you need to make sure that works well. Because right now we've got a business that generates a decent amount of revenue and a decent amount of profit, and really it could sort of operate without us a little bit. But I think to do it justice and to make sure that we do it the best we possibly can do for the shedders that work for us now, we have to make sure we focus on getting this thing done well. And the thing about doing it well is you can't set a time scale on that, because with otherwise you're constraining other aspects. So for now, our plans are absolutely building the best data business we can. The world is waking up to the fact that data unfortunately describes everything everywhere. It's just how good that data is that allows you to make the right decisions, and that's what we're hoping people will start to realize fairly soon. I would in terms of personal plans, I would like to be working a bit more flexibly over the next couple of years. But I think realistically we're a consultancy at the end of the day. We are beholden to the wishes of our our clients, and we'll see where they go as well. We've got some very open-minded and sort of forward-thinking clients, so I'm sure they'll think a similar way to us. In other areas of things I want to do, I just want to be in a bloody van in Europe or anywhere, to fair. It's not on a driveway.
Yeah, get it off the driveway, exactly. Maybe in another month or couple of months or so, then you might be able to. I hope so anyway, because I'm meant to be getting married in September in Croatia.
Oh, right. Okay.
So we're like right on the cusp at the moment of whether it will or will not happen, which is giving me a few more grey hairs, isn't it, Sandra?
I heard this morning on the news, though, on the way in, that they are starting to talk about allowing us to travel, but obviously there's that 2-week quarantine place, isn't there? So we'll see.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you've got the trade-off between I'd love to be somewhere else doing something, which is frankly a real luxury. I've got a nice van, I could be anywhere, but it's just a white middle class male. I've got a bit of cash, I can do this thing, an absolute luxury. Whereas the trade-off is just make sure you're not carrying any sort of extension of this global pandemic any further than you have.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, you can't be selfish in the current situation, can you? It's just a real tough one for everyone, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. No, it's about, and that's the thing we're doing at the moment is yes, we could think about opening bits of the office, but then you've got the complexity of saying, well, if parents of shedders have got their kids going to school, they're coming back, should they then go into the office with let's just keep the risk as low as we can. Let's make sure.
Yeah, it's very true, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. Well, it sounds like you're doing your bit anyway, and it sounds like things are going amazingly well since I last caught up to you. So definitely some really exciting plans on the horizon as well. I think, like you said, there's lots of great things happening in your way, and you and Anna and the team will work super hard. So it's great to hear that you've got such fantastic successes. So it's been brilliant having the time to have a chat with you this morning. So thanks so much to Ed. Ed, if anyone wants to get in touch, is it best on LinkedIn, Twitter?
LinkedIn. Yeah.
LinkedIn, yeah. Anna's quite big on Twitter though, isn't she? I follow Anna.
She is a big twit, yes.
I'll make sure I cut that bit out. So
I'll put it on. The dragon.
All right, lovely. Well, thanks for having you on. Nice to see you, Ed.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Yeah, see you all soon.
Yeah.